Co-powered by Dish HD, Cricket Castly partner.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, Friday night. This is your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point is our big history debate. We'll have historians coming together to debate the Mandir Masjid dispute and ask the question, how far back in history will we go to settle grievances? That's going to be the talking point. Also, our newsmaker, the world boxing champion Nikhat Zareen, will be joining me from Istanbul. But first, as always, the 9 headlines at 9 tonight. The Supreme Court transfers the Gyanvapi Mosque case to a district court in Varanasi. 17th May order protecting the Shivling and Namaz will continue, says the Apex Court. Former Punjab Congress chief Navjot Singh Sidhu surrenders in a Patiala court, complains of chest pain before heading to the Patiala Central Jail. Accused of murdering her daughter, Indrani Mukherjee walks out of jail after 6.5 years, says she believes in empathy and forgiveness. India Today's news break on the language war issue explodes as Prime Minister Modi settles the debate, says all regional dialects are worthy of worship.
भाजपा भारत की हर भाषा में भारतीय संस्कृति का प्रतिबिंब देखती है. हर भाषा उसे पूजनीय मानती है.
CBI raids 17 locations of RJD Supremo Lalu Yadav wife robbery and daughter Meesa Bharti over more corruption charges in a land for job scam. Big revelations in the 2019 Hyderabad veterinarians gang rape and murder case. Reported submitted by Supreme Court appointed panel probing encounter of the accused, says the encounter was staged by the police. As China builds a new bridge near Pangong Tso, the Ministry of External Affairs says areas where they are being built have been under the illegal occupation of China since the 1960s. As Finland formally applies to join the NATO alliance, Russia to cut off natural gas supply to Finland from tomorrow. Finland imports over 10% of its energy from Russia. And she says her aim is to make her father proud by winning an Olympic medal in Paris, says Nikhat Zareen after winning the gold at the Women's World Championship in the 52 kg flyweight final. But our top story tonight, the Supreme Court today has transferred the Gyanvapi Mosque case to a Varanasi district judge. Its order today on protection of the Shivling and safeguarding the right to Namaz will continue. The issue of whether the case filed by Hindus is maintainable at all will now be decided on priority by a district judge. For now, it appears that the battle shifts from the civil court to the district court, giving all of the participants some time to press the pause button. It's our top story tonight.
The Supreme Court of India has transferred the civil suit over Gyanvapi Mosque to the district court in Varanasi. A 3-judge Supreme Court bench on Friday passed an order in a petition filed by the Anjuman Intizamiya Masjid Committee. The civil suit over Gyanvapi, which was being heard by a civil judge, senior division, will now be heard by the district judge Varanasi. In some respite for the mosque committee, the maintainability of the case filed by the Hindu petitioners will be heard on priority. The Supreme Court has also ordered the district magistrate to ensure arrangements for namaz and wazu. The court's May 17th order directing the protection of the claimed Shivling will continue till the district judge gives a verdict, and further 8 weeks to give time to parties to file appeal.
माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय को लगा कि ये मामला इतना सेंसिटिव है और कॉम्प्लेक्स है, इसको ध्यान में रखते हुए उन्होंने डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज से सुनवाई का आग्रह किया है और उनको निर्देशित भी किया है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज इसकी सुनवाई करे, ताकि एक एक्सपीरियंस्ड ऑफिसर और जितने भी रिपोर्ट्स और जितने भी एप्लीकेशन है सबों की सुनवाई माननीय डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज करेंगे.
The mosque committee has challenged the admission of Hindu petition by the local court, its order of videography and its orders to protect the pond at the mosque site. The Mosque Committee argues the local court's ruling violates the Places of Worship Act 1991, which ensures the religious character of a place of worship as it stood on August 15, 1947. During the hearing, the Supreme Court asked whether the Places of Worship Act bars determining the religious character of a site. The question will now be touched upon by the District Court when it decides on the maintainability of the petition by Hindus. Bureau Report, India Today.
The action now shifts to the District Court in Varanasi, which is expected to take up these matters very shortly. The Supreme Court will, however, continue hearing on the Muslim side's petition regarding their right to worship and the Places of Worship Act now in the second week of July. In New Delhi, with cameraman Ashwini Helan, this is Anisha Mathur for India Today.
Big fight over Gyanvapi Mosque. After Ayodhya, clamour to reclaim Kashi and Mathura. Another Mandir Masjid dispute escalates. Is Mandir Movement 2.0 in the making? Correcting historical wrongs. How far back in history will we go? Will history end up dividing modern India? The big history debate.
That's right. Will history end up dividing India, or will it end up unifying this country? A key element in the complex Gyanvapi case is the intersection of history with law and politics. Have we lived in denial over a contested and contentious history for much too long? A history of conflict and turbulence, of emperors and conquerors. Should 21st century India be looking to course correct historical grievances, or should we, as some would argue, simply focus on the present and future, move away from civilizational battles over places of worship to the challenges of a new India? Also, just how far back will we go into the past? And are all these battles about a fraught history or about a bitterly polarized politics of today? And can a multi-religious India afford such battles? That's what we hope to grapple with on this big history debate. Joining us now, Swapan Dasgupta, former BJP MP, also author and historian, Professor Aditya Mukherjee, former Professor Contemporary History at the Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Advanced Studies, Professor Irfan Habib, historian of science and modern political history, Professor Makhan Lal, also historian and author. Thank you all very much for joining us. Great to have four historians triggering this off. Swapan Dasgupta, why don't you take it first? Because you've been most open in suggesting that the Gyanvapi issue stems from a denial of the historical grievances of the Mughal era, which you believe need to be corrected today as part of a civilizational course correction. Tell us what you mean. Do you really believe that correcting historical wrongs of 300-400 years ago is what India needs today?
I think, Rajdeep, it's very important to point out that first, today, everybody agrees that there is no dispute whatsoever that the Vishwanath temple was demolished in 1669 on the orders of Aurangzeb, and the so-called Gyanvapi Masjid, I mean, it has another name, but it's popularly known as Gyanvapi Masjid, was established there. Now, this is an incontrovertible fact. We can debate as to why exactly the temple was demolished, what were the motives, etc. It's also a fact that remnants of the old temple were left there. Partly, it could have been because they ran out of money, it could be because they ran out of expertise, but more likely because it was shown as a symbol of humiliation, a permanent reminder to the subject people of that time that this is what the imperial authority had dictated. Now, all this today, we are now quite openly saying so. Yet, what is ironic is that the reality of iconoclasm, the reality of temple destruction, was sought to be concealed, obfuscated, and put a gloss over till very, very recently. It was all made out that this is a fiction, these are exaggerations, that actually what existed was some glorious Ganga Jamuna Tehzeeb. Of course it existed. But underneath that was a history of complete religious oppression. And I think it's important to point out that unless we are forthcoming and open about the fact that the Mughal Empire may have had a lot of pluses, but it had a glaring number of minuses, and that the wounds which began even from the time of the Delhi Sultanate actually persisted and continues to this day, not least because there has been a systematic policy of denial. When one of the petitioners says that a mosque has existed from time immemorial, I mean, really, that's stretching the truth a bit too far. But the unfortunate thing is that there has been a connivance of historians, which goes back to the time of the Ayodhya dispute, of actually suggesting that, nothing like this ever happened, that, it was all hunky-dory in medieval times. And I believe that if we are to go forward in the coming days, and I'm not even making any statement about what the status of the Gyanvapi should be in future, but I think it's important to recognize that there is a very strong case for Hindu worshippers who say, let us also have a little bit of space in that old temple.
No, but
can
I just stop you for a...
And you just say...
Is it about, therefore, you're saying you're not looking at the status of the Gyanvapi Mosque, what will happen in the days ahead. But I'm asking you, while you say you've got to end the mood of denial, the fact is it's very well known that there were temples which were demolished by Aurangzeb. Are you saying I ask you the other, is it that we have to now correct these wrongs? Have we to correct these historical wrongs by rebuilding?
I'm so glad today that you're saying it's so well known. You weren't saying this during the time of the Ayodhya dispute. You certainly weren't saying it. Historians weren't saying it. That really built up the anger then. Neither are you saying that, yes, there is a case that the history of medieval India is not one of glorious amity and completely seamless syncretism, that it had a lot of rough edges to it. And it was also a very bloody chapter in which an important section of the population, in fact, the majority of the population, were treated as subject people. And I think it's important to point that out, that this was also a case of oppression, and it's that which I think is very important to point out. So it's
before I widen it,
it's putting the history straight.
Okay, before I widen it, you're saying it's putting the history straight. The question, therefore, before I widen it to you is that how far do you go back? Tomorrow, we can find evidence that there are Hindu kings, and there is evidence, who destroyed Buddhist viharas, who destroyed Jain temples. Are we saying all historical wrongs are going to be corrected?
I am sure. The point is, it's important to record various things. How far do we go back? We can go back endlessly. That's not the issue. Today you're asking how far do we go back? Here we are not going back very much. Here we are going back only to the 17th century. It's pretty recent in its...
Dr. Dasgupta, you're treading in dangerous territory. You're saying it's recent, and therefore...
And you can talk about... You can go about... Talk about the actual origin of the Qutub Minar, the ruins which it is. Of course, you can record it. And it has to be recorded. Whether it's recorded through the archaeological survey putting up signs, or whether it's recorded in the history books. The history books make no mention of it, because you've chosen to gloss over history.
Are you recording history, or are you playing politics? My final question on this is, are you recording history or playing politics because it serves a political purpose?
It is becoming politicized partly because you denied history. It is becoming politicized because of that.
Okay,
Had you not challenged and obfuscated history, the matter would not have been politicized. And I would suggest very much that it is political, partly because there is a larger point being made about the nature of the state and who controls history. Who controls history? And that is the thing is that history is being controlled by people who have a particular agenda, and it's that agenda which is being questioned today.
Okay. Now, Professor Mukherjee, respond. It's being politicized because history has been denied for much too long, is Swapan Dasgupta's claim. You want to respond?
Yeah, I think to convert every historical wrong from the ancient to the medieval period, every raiding of a temple or even a mosque, after all, Mahmud of Ghazni also destroyed many, many Shiite mosques, is to convert that into saying that there is a deep-seated antagonism between Hindus and Muslims, and it must be avenged, is A, bad history, and B, it is even worse politics. It's bad history for the following reasons. As you correctly said, raids of temples and places of worship has happened globally in the ancient and medieval times, and they have not, fortunately, in the civilized parts of the world, been avenged by making the successors of those who did it in terms of religion as responsible. British colonial rule, for example, unanimously everybody agrees, was terrible for India. It destroyed economy, polity, culture, society, everything, right? Yet our tradition was to critique colonialism, not to attack the British, not to take a revenge on the British. In fact, we send our best minds, people like Swapan Dasgupta, to Oxford and Cambridge to study and come back. All right? So that's how civilization behaves. Similarly, you do not fight religious bigotry, which did exist. Nobody denies it. And as you correctly said, that it has been done by the people of various religions across the board. We do not convert them into now taking revenge on the poor Muslim kabadiwala in Jahangirpuri, in creating hatred in our society, in destroying the very nation that has been created. Why is it bad history? Because there is another way of looking at our history. Of course, there are these...
Professor Mukherjee, was there a denial? Swapan Dasgupta is claiming there was a denial. Was there a denial? Did we, post 47, in our urge to secularize history, end up denying history, be selective with it? Yes or no?
No. Nobody has denied, for example, that Somnath was destroyed by Muhammad of Ghazni. What has happened is good history was written after that. For example, Professor Romila Thapar wrote a whole book on Somnath and was able to demonstrate that how that destruction was seen 150 years later.
Was Aurangzeb's role denied? Was Aurangzeb's role in denying temples ever denied?
No, I'm just saying that the people of that region did not hold it as a permanent divide between Hindus and Muslims, as was argued by Munje and others. That did not happen. In fact, 150 years later, 200 years later, land was given by the Somnath Temple Trust, temple authorities, to a Muslim trader to build mosques in that region. If you read this thing, if you read our history, the way, for example, that Jawaharlal Nehru would read in Discovery of India, that it is a palimpsest, where, you know, from the Greeks to the Turks to the Islamic forces to Parthians, Bactrians, Jews, Zoroastrians have all come, left their imprint, and India still managed to grow. They've left their imprint without destroying the previous one. I mean, there is that history also we need to look at, is it not? Do we not need to look at a continuous tradition, a Sufi tradition of 800 years, from Baba Farid, Guru Nanak, Shah Alam, Sultan Bahu, Bulle Shah, to Varis Shah, to Bhai Veer Singh, to Amrita Pritam, to Faiz, across from 12th to the 20th century, to Amir Khusro's songs being sung till today, 700 years later, by people across the religions. Chap Tilak, Sab Cheen Lire, Mohsin Naina Milaike. Who doesn't know this song? Now, is that also not it? But to convert, as I said, one destruction of a temple and then describe our whole society as being vengeful Muslims versus Hindus is bad history and even worse politics.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
You've made your point. I want to give as much time to each of our participants. Irfan, Professor Habib, you want to enter this debate? Have we been honest with the likes of Aurangzeb and his role? Has there been an attempt been made to whitewash the history at any stage in your view, as Dr. Dasgupta seemed to suggest?
I don't understand. Actually, all of us know Aurangzeb is being taught in textbooks. We know what Aurangzeb was. I want to add to something which Aditya just pointed out. If you want to talk about the destruction of temples, which is a fact of history, it's all recorded everywhere in so many books of all these years. And I think it's something which no historian has ever denied, that Aurangzeb didn't destroy temples. Now, motives I don't want to discuss. I want to discuss things which Aurangzeb did otherwise also. Like, there are so many farmans where he helped in construction of temples. If you want to destroy a mosque because it was built by the destruction of a temple by Aurangzeb, then what will you do with the temple which he got constructed? Because Aurangzeb is involved in that construction as well.
Give me an example. Give me an example of a temple that Aurangzeb constructed.
There are many examples. There are many textbooks. I don't have a record, but there are so many.
No, Andrea Trushke speaks about it. Okay, so you are saying that you can't look at Aurangzeb purely from the fact of what happened in Kashi Vishwanath. Professor Makhanlal, you want to dive also into this debate?
I think I need to say something more.
You see, go ahead.
I hold all the three panelists in high esteem.
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
I hold all the three panelists in high esteem and have known Aditya Mukherjee and Mutla Mukherjee for a long time, hold in great respect. But what I find very difficult to accept is both Aditya Mukherjee as well as Habib Saab, they have spoken everything, right from temple destruction to Buddhism to Sufism to Jahangir Puri even. They did not talk anything about what we are discussing today, the issue. And also, they have not really opened up the debate. We don't have to blame Aurangzeb. We have to blame historians who have resorted to negationism, lock, stock and barrel, who have resorted not to talk about the facts, but perspective and interpretation. I would have been very happy had Aditya Mukherjee and Irfan Habib talked about what has been denied in history, because we must learn, as a historian, we need not to live in history, we must learn to live with history. By hiding away the facts, you are denying people to know their real past.
No, what is Professor Makhanlal? What is the fact that has been denied? For our viewers, let's get this very clear. What is the fact that you believe, sir, that has been denied so far?
I don't understand.
Let him complete, sir. Let Professor Makhanlal complete. Go ahead.
Have a look at the circular given by Government of India how to write NCERT book. Have a look at circular given by West Bengal government, Shuddho and Ashuddho. Do the historians have to follow the dictates of politicians and rulers? We must state the facts and let the country know what its identity is. History is, after all, identity. History is your past. Aditya Mukherjee was saying, and you also commented, that are we going to divide people? No. Has Europe got divided because of writing correct history? Europe has been always on war, various countries. Still they formed European Union. That is the way to learn history. Straightway tell the truth and ask people to live with it. You cannot deny history. Aditya ji, I hold you very high esteem, but you are talking of Jahangir Puri today. Why? What it has to do with history? No, I am sorry. Much of your tribe is responsible for negationism and hiding away the history.
Professor Makhanlal, can you give me, sir, Professor Makhanlal, can you give me a concrete example of something that has been hidden? Give me a concrete example. Give me a concrete example that you believe that left historians or
gave you-
NCRT books have hidden.
I gave you the circular issued by West Bengal government, very famously known as Shuddho and Ashuddho, writing the government that don't talk about Muslims in a bad light, don't talk in the textbook about the destruction of temple, don't talk about Muslim rulers converting Hindus to Islam with the force. Are these less examples?
Okay,
Rajdeep, I totally disagree with you when you say how far we can go. We should go till eternity for writing correct history and ask the people to live with it.
Ask the people to live with it. Aditya Mukherjee, quickly respond and then I'll go to Swapan Dasgupta again. Do you believe that the NCRT textbooks, that the so-called 70s, particularly in the Indira Gandhi period, history textbooks were written with the idea that we have to secularize history and therefore downplay the role, according to Professor Makhanlal, of Muslim invasions?
Far from it, far from it. The 1960s, in fact, before Indira Gandhi, this was an effort done by the National Integration Council, which asked the NCRT to now get books written which were anti-colonial and anti-communal, because that is the kind of historiography which was promoted under British rule. After all, this whole Hindu-Muslim divide is a product of British rule. Do not forget. This understanding that there was this deep-seated enmity between Hindus and Muslims, and the British had to come and rescue the Hindus from the Muslim tyranny, is a British theory created in the 19th century. This is what I'm saying. If you read your history, the Indian people did not think that. They did not see that the coming of some Muslim rulers meant that there was a deep-seated sort of divide between Hindus and Muslims.
So you're saying post-47 there was an attempt to correct colonial history.
Marrying every other day.
So you're saying post-47 there was an attempt to correct colonial history. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And the best minds wrote for it. The best minds, internationally recognized, wrote. People like Romila Thapar writing for class 6 children. It has not happened anywhere else in the world.
And you deny it was a left-sponsored history?
Certainly not. It was a secular nationalist effort.
Okay.
It was an anti-communal, anti-colonial effort at writing scientific history. In scientific history, you do not deny anything, you do not hide anything. As Professor Makhanlal said quite correctly, facts cannot be and should not be hidden. But newer and newer facts must be added to give an interpretation of history which is humane, which takes you forward, rather than an interpretation which leads you to stabbing each other as quickly as you can.
You know, Swapan Dasgupta, let us assume for a moment that every political dispensation has used history. The fact, though, is that what seems to happen now is history is being used to divide. Let's accept that the Kashi Vishwanath temple or part of it was destroyed by Aurangzeb. What sense does it make to go back in time when really we have serious challenges that face the present and future? Where does so-called Hindu revivalism in the name of reviving our civilizational ethos really take us?
Well, firstly, Rajdeep, I think it's very important to realize one thing, that under the guise of anti-colonial, anti-communal and scientific history, what took place was an exercise in ideological indoctrination meant to further a particular political doctrine. Now, I'm not going into the merits or demerits of that political doctrine. All I wish to say is that a lot of things were actually hidden from view. Now, if you say that actually the destruction of Somnath by Mahmud of Ghazni had very little long-term impact, and that in the local region it was treated as a bad hiccup. Well, the point remains that the legend of the destruction of Somnath exists even to this date and persists in the Hindu imagination as a gaping wound. As does
the legend started by the British in the
as does the destruction of the temple in Mathura, as does the destruction of the Kashi Vishwanath temple. So these were not normal small-time local hiccups which happens when invaders come in and all that sort of thing. No, they were important. And they played a very important role in determining how the politics...
No, but
for
we
a
can
moment.
I come back to it, Swapan Das Gupta. It's a political agenda, isn't it? It's a political agenda. When you choose Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura specifically, effectively you're pushing a political agenda. You're picking and choosing
a certain agenda in trying to expose the iconoclasm that took place in the face of denial. You don't remember the existence of a temple which predated the mosque was denied consistently till the excavations took place. However, I am not casting aspersions as Aditya Mukherjee seems to suggest, that I am blaming the Muslims of today for what happened under Aurangzeb or what happened under Babur or what happened under the Mahmud of Ghazni. What I am trying to suggest is that are any of the Muslims for today actually only are they saying we are the proud?
Sir, you're saying you're not blaming the Muslims of today, but there will be those who will say that you are actually blaming them. That's what many would argue. But Professor Makhanlal, Richard David, Professor of Religion and Asian Studies, gives in 7th century Hindu Pallava king Narasimha Varman looted an idol of Ganesha from the Chalukyan capital of Vatapi. 50 years later, Hindu Chalukyan army brought back with them idols of Ganga and Jamuna. In the 8th century, a Bengali Hindu army is said to have destroyed an idol of Vishnu belonging to their imperial fort. In the 10th century, the Hindu Pratihara king Hiram Papla defeated the Hindu Shai king of Kangda, looted a solid gold idol of Vishnu. 11th century, Chola ruler Rajendra I furnished his capital with idols of Hindu deities he captured from the Chalukyas, Palas and the Kalingas. I can go on and on. The question is, therefore, once you start going back in history, you're saying put all the facts. It's dangerous, isn't it? You're going to then somewhere or the other be accused of cherry picking. At the moment, the argument is you're picking on Kashi Vishwanath. Tomorrow, you could pick on another place. What happens to all the hundreds of temples or indeed any place of worship that have been destroyed?
No, I think that you can go on as you listed.
Yes.
But as a historian, let me say very straight that the job of historian is not that of a cook. That today a government says, cook us the secular history, you start cooking. Then tomorrow a government says, cook us a communal history, you start cooking. Is that a job of historian? Aditya Mukherjee very straightway accepted that we were directed to write secular, anti-communal, anti-historian history. Is that the job of historian? We must learn to state the facts, and also, as you pointed out, right from Cholas to all of them, destroying this and that. I will be the first person to write that back in history, not to give interpretation. What has happened, let us accept one thing. There has been, as Swapan Das Gupta said, constant denial mode that if you talk about destruction of history, there will be problem.
Sir,
why there will be problem?
No, there will be problem because it will be used to demonize today's Muslims. Professor Makhanlal, there is a problem because the fear is it will be used to demonize Muslims today.
Rajdeep, it will not be demonized provided you learn to live with history, provided you learn to accept your past. As long as you don't accept your past, all these things will be happening what you are advocating. I don't agree with you. What is very important is don't accept and don't own the only great legacies of past, but also the bad things. Don't own only the great things Muslims have done in this country, but also the bad things.
No, so should I not also, Professor Makhanlal, also look at Akbar? Should I also not look at the fact that Aurangzeb also gave land grants and other facilities to Brindavan temple at Mathura, Sikh Gurdwara and Dehradun? He gave support to the construction of a temple in Hardoi. We can look at it.
Must look at.
You're saying must look at it all, right?
Must look at, Rajdeep. I am saying that is what I am saying. I am saying that must look at it. Don't hide away anything. Look at everything impartially, write about it, and you and I must learn to live with what has happened in the past. You can't own good things and disown bad things.
Professor
Own that.
Irfan Habib, is that a
And
fair
there
thing?
is a possibility.
Professor Habib, is that fair? You must be ready to own up to the bad things as well as the good things. You can't have a selective interpretation, Professor Habib.
I don't think anybody did what Professor Makhanlal is saying. Nothing is hidden. Nobody has denied anything. All these things which are being raised are actually there in the books written over the past decades. I don't think anybody has written anything at all. It is only being made, the claims are being made as if all these things are being done for the first time. That is questionable. All these things are part of our history. The point is, if you look at our past as Hindu-Muslim conflict only, then you are going to look at history in a very different way. That is what people like us want to question. The medieval India was much more than that, or history is much more than that.
That's a very important point you're making. That's an important point. And Swapan Dasgupta, you want to respond to it? There is a need to look at history more than just Hindu-Muslim conflict. It is Hindu-Muslim conflict because it suits a particular... I come back to it. It suits a political agenda. You're running away from that. I accept your historical argument.
What is the political point? The political point here is that politically, does any section of India actually suggest that they are claiming the inheritance of Aurangzeb? That is the question I'm asking.
Who's claiming?
If any section claims that yes, we are proud of Aurangzeb, then
who has said that? Who has said that? Swapan Dasgupta, who has said we are proud of Aurangzeb? Swapan Dasgupta, who has said we are proud of Aurangzeb? Who has said it?
Saying that if anyone does it, then there is a problem. Till no one claims that they are actually proud inheritors of the legacy of Aurangzeb or Ghazali, then there is no problem. Why are you making it a contemporary communal issue? No one is accusing the Muslims of today of saying that Aurangzeb did a good thing, unless someone actually says so. Are you suggesting that?
I am saying that you can... Indian history is more than Aurangzeb.
Is the Muslim heritage of today determined by Aurangzeb or is it determined by Dara Shikoh? It's a question I want to ask.
Okay, direct question. Aditya Mukherjee, either Aditya Mukherjee or Professor Irfan Habib. Irfan Habib, why don't you respond? Is Islamic history defined by Aurangzeb or Dara Shikoh?
No, none of them. Neither Aurangzeb nor Dara Shikoh. They have nothing to do with Islam at all. They were rulers. They were some of them emperors. One lost, another won. And the battle of succession, which Aurangzeb fought, most of the Rajput kings of Rajputana supported Aurangzeb in his fight against Dara Shikoh. So it was not actually a battle between a communalist Aurangzeb or fanatic Aurangzeb and a more liberal.
Very important point. There were Rajput kings who fought on the side of Aurangzeb against Dara Shikoh. That's also part of history. We can't get away from that, Swapan Dasgupta. You see, we are reducing history into heroes and villains.
There is a political. What do these people symbolize? Hitler is remembered as the perpetuator of the Holocaust, not as a person who was kind to dogs and who was a vegetarian.
Can I bring in? At this?
So therefore, I want to know. Aurangzeb represents a certain political symbol. Dara Shikoh represents a certain political symbol. Who do you associate with? And this is an open question I want to ask.
I am with Dara Shikoh.
And this is the question, I think, which is at the heart of the political schism which actually takes place today.
Aditya Mukherjee, you want to respond? Professor Habib says he is firmly with the Dara Shikoh worldview. But should we be asked to choose at the moment like this? Are you saying, do you believe that historians should be choosing? Should historians just put, as Professor Makhanlal is saying, put the facts before people, let people decide?
No, they must put the facts. I'll just add two more points, Rajdeep. One is to add to your long list of the destruction that was done by Hindus and others of various places of worship, is that what the Mahant of Gyanvapi temple says, that a lot of temples were recently destroyed on the way to the Gyanvapi temple to create this great vista through which the Prime Minister would come, in which many Shivlings were also destroyed. So, temple destruction has gone in till today. But that apart, the issue is, what are we going to look for from in history, and what's
So Aurangzeb wanted to widen the road. Aurangzeb wanted to widen the access and therefore set up another thing. Fantastic.
I never said that.
Fantastic.
I never said that. I said that the current access also led, which was done by the current regime, also led to the destruction of temples. But that is not the point. The point I'm making is what spin you are giving it, from history. Of course, all facts must be mentioned. Of course, Aurangzeb should also be there. But you should not obliterate Akbar either, which is one of the greatest achievements of Indian civilization, would be what Akbar was doing in the 16th century, way before Enlightenment in Europe, talking of reason, rationality, having debates in court between Hindus, Muslims, atheists, etc. I mean, this is something amazing. So, but if you write only, as Mahatma Gandhi is to use his phrase, if you want to write only a drain inspector's report, and from that create a vengeful, hateful society, I think it is very, very unfortunate. That is not the job of the historian.
I will give Professor Makhanlal, who's put his hand up, a final 30 seconds. Go ahead. You just heard, we need to create a vengeful history. History is more than just about conquerors and rulers and vengeful history.
Very beautifully said. History is more than that. But at the same time, with all due respect to Aditya, I would like to say that history and listing the facts is not drain inspector's report. It's a true chronicular, a treasure for the nation and people to learn what has happened in the past. And Santayana has said, those who do not remember their history, they become part of history. What Aditya Mukherjee is saying, you become part of history and go to hell. I don't agree with that.
Let me leave it there. It's been wonderful to hear four distinct voices speak with respect to each other, which is the way I would like it, because then it becomes truly news without the noise. Swapan Dasgupta, Aditya Mukherjee, Professor Makhanlal, Professor Habib, thank you very much for giving us a glimpse into history. I want to leave today with, before I go on, with what Ashutosh Rana was quoted as saying, बांट दिया धरती को चांद सितारों का क्या होगा, नदियों के कुछ नाम रखे बहती धाराओं का क्या होगा, शिव की गंगा भी पानी है, आबे जलजम भी पानी है, मुल्ला भी पिए पंडित भी पिए, पानी का मजहब क्या होगा, इन फिरका परस्तों से पूछो क्या सूरज अलग बनाओगे, एक हवा में सांस है सबकी, क्या हवा भी नहीं चलाओगे, नस्लों का करे जो बंटवारा, रहबर वो कौम का ढोंगी है, क्या खुदा ने मंदिर तोड़ा था, क्या राम ने मस्जिद तोड़ी थी. Think about it. Let's take a break. On the other side is our good news today. Nikhat Zareen will be joining us, the gold medal winner at the Women's World Boxing Championship. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com or call 9999892171.
Let's give you our good news today story. Indian boxer Nikhat Zareen created history in Istanbul last night, becoming only the 5th Indian woman to win a world title in boxing. Zareen was competing, remember, in the flyweight category. She decimated her Thai opponent 5-0 in the final to give India their first gold at the World Championships in the last 4 years. Zareen from Nizamabad is also the first Indian, apart from Mary Kom, to win the coveted title in the last 14 years. We spoke to Zareen earlier today. I began by asking her, Zareen, congratulations on behalf of all Indians. You've done the nation incredibly proud. Kaisa lagta hai? What does it feel like to be world boxing champion, number 1?
Firstly, thank you so much. Yes, it really feels good to win a gold medal for my country. And after all these hard works and sacrifices I did in my life, so it finally paid off. So yeah, I'm really feeling happy after winning this medal.
You know, Nikhat, women's boxing, yani Mary Kom, for the longest time, you had a difficult relationship with Mary Kom because you all were competing in the same weight group. Have you finally now come out of her shadow? Finally, can you say how difficult has it been for you to emerge from Mary Kom's large shadow?
I mean, yeah, I have always looked up to her as my idol. And she's a legend, and she has been a great, inspiration for all our boxers. And yes, if people, people used to say, Nikhat is the next Mary Kom. I used to feel good, but still I wanted to, be known as Nikhat Zareen only.
Well, you're definitely now Nikhat, not Mary Kom number 2.0. Did your parents though, Nikhat, or relatives ever say, don't do boxing, mat karo, it's not a sport for girls?
No, not my parents, but my parents' relatives used to, come and say to my dad and mom that, why you're allowing your daughter to join boxing. It's a manly sport. If she get hurt, who will marry her? So they used to, brainwash my parents, but my father was also an athlete, so he has never, supported them. He always supported me. So yeah, I'm really blessed to have such parents.
Yes, your father was a footballer. Did anyone though ever say, why are you wearing shorts? Ye short pants kahan pehne? Why aren't you in traditional clothes?
Yeah, since childhood, I was like a tomboy, I used to wear jeans, t-shirts, shorts. But after some time I started growing up, and people used to tell me, why are you wearing shorts and all that. But my parents never stopped me, wearing shorts. So that's why, I don't listen what people say except my parents. So I always, listen to my parents, and because of their support only today I'm here.
Your father, as you said, is footballer, Jamil. Sports in your genes. Do you give him and your mother therefore all the credit that they didn't allow all this pressure ki shorts pehno? Your relatives, they kept you away from the pressure, allowed you to do boxing?
Yes, I give all the credit to my parents, not just my father, even my mother also has, helped me a lot in my career. Whenever I feel like to eat something, because I always lose weight for all the competition. So whenever I, get back, whenever I go back to home, I always call her and tell ki mummy aaj ye banana, aaj ye pakana. So she always, get prepared everything and make ready for, make everything ready for me.
What's the thing about a sport like boxing that you like best? Why do you like boxing so much?
In boxing, boxing taught me, not only to fight in the ring, it also taught me, how to fight in life also. So yeah, that's why, I love boxing.
Boxing taught you not just how to fight in the ring, but also how to fight in life. Lovely one line there. I just want to understand from you also, going for gold at the Olympics, Nikhat, is that the next big thing in Paris in 2024?
Yes, my ultimate goal is to win gold at Paris Olympics. But right now my focus is on Commonwealth Games. So I'll I'll start preparing for Commonwealth Games now.
And a final question. You come from a small town, Nizamabad. You are fulfilling big dreams. I find all the small town sports persons, badminton players, cricketers, more fighting spirit to succeed, no? You all are better fighters.
It's not like that. When you have dreams to achieve something in your life, so it doesn't matter you belong from a village or a city, but it's all because of your hard work. I had the dream to represent my country at world level and win medal for my country, and which is why I, worked hard, and today I represented my country and won gold medal for my country. So it really feels good.
Nikhat, you are an inspiration to all Indians, but to young women in particular. What's your message to young Indian women who maybe want to chase their dreams like you?
My only message will be to all the women out there that when you have a dream, to achieve, just keep working hard, never give up on your dreams, and believe in yourself.
Well, I just want to say, Nikhat, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations once again on becoming the world boxing champion, and may you win an Olympic gold in 2 years from now. Thanks very much. What a story. And what a week it's been for Indian sport, winning the Thomas Cup for the first time, and now Nikhat winning a gold at the World Boxing Champion. This is still a great country. And remember, sports above all else breaks all boundaries. When you are on the sports ring, you rise above every division that is created. Temple mosque disputes divide us, sports unites us. Think about it as you head into the weekend. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.
So it seems like Ukrainian forces have found yet another way to trick Russian troops. They've been placing mannequins in war-torn Kharkiv. Now, when we talk about mannequins, you would obviously think about mannequins which are placed outside stores to showcase their best clothes. But Ukraine took mannequins and dressed them up in full combat gear. The dummy you see here is made to look like it's peeking from behind a cover. In this case, it's peeking from behind a tree. They have been dressed in full combat gear just like a soldier would during warfare, and it's armed as well. Using decoy troops is not new to the military. Experts claimed that decoy troops are quite effective against helicopters and aircrafts that will obviously not be able to tell the difference from a height, whether it's a mannequin or it's an actual soldier. Targeting these dummies is a waste of effort and ammunition. In fact, the Russians have done it throughout the war to trick Ukrainian soldiers. Russia has also alleged that Ukraine has used mannequins to fake dead bodies to trick the international community. A US-based Institute for the Study of War stated that Russians have appeared to be retreating from Kharkiv, but they are attempting to replace troops with proxy forces or mercenaries. So given the retreat, it seems to appear that Ukraine has won the battle of Kharkiv. Now, as far as the mannequins are concerned, nobody really knows who placed these dummies in strategic positions, but whoever did clearly has a strategic sense of combat.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
You are watching India Today.
The World Economic Forum is back after a 2-year break.
And the India Today group is on the ground to bring you all the ringside action.
So join me and Rahul Kamal as we catch up with the biggest names from across the globe and India.
Hear global leaders on issues that really matter from the 22nd to the 26th of May only on India Today and Business Today.
Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast from the banks of river Ganga in Kashi. I'm Gaurav Sawant. This is a holy city. This is an eternal city. It is known as the Avinashi Kashi. And as we watch the Ganga Aarti, we tell you why Kashi is in the headlines. We will talk about the miracles of Mahadev, and the entire country is talking about the court-mandated survey that has been carried out and a Shivling-like structure that has been found in the Gyanvapi premises. Over the course of the next half hour, we bring you the miracles of Mahadev.
National uprising over a claimed Shivling. Images capture a nation's intrigue and imagination. As a legal dispute explodes over the structure, one deity has dominated the headlines. Because the Shivling is his oldest form. Most revered symbol of Hinduism's great god. Primordial cosmic form of Mahadev. The